Hi, I'm Pam from the Hooked on Sewing blog. In this sewing tutorial, I'd like to talk to you about how to press your seams. There's a difference between ironing and pressing your seams, and it's important that you know the difference in how to properly press your seams. You see, when you iron, you're moving your iron with the fabric or on the fabric, and that can cause your seams to be distorted. And we definitely don't want that when we're dealing with quilting or sewing apparel. So it's really important to know why you want to press your seams, how to set your seams or how to set your stitches, and why you don't want to iron the fabric when you're dealing with your seams. So let's take a look. Okay, so I just stitched these two pieces of fabric together, and I have a seam going down the side here. And now let me show you, when you iron your fabric, you are taking your iron that's been heated to the appropriate temperature for the fabric that you're using, and you smooth it along the fabric. And that's fine when you're trying to remove wrinkles from your fabric, but seams are another story. With my seam here, the first thing I want to do is set my stitches. So I will take my iron that's already preheated to cotton setting, and I will press it along my stitching line. I will raise up my iron and move it to the next section. And then that is called setting the seams. And what it does is it presses down on your stitches so that it kind of melds with the fabric. Otherwise, it's taking up precious seam space. So once I have set my stitches, and it really doesn't take long, then I'm going to open up my fabric with the wrong side facing up, and I'm going to press open my seams with my fingers. Just use my fingers to kind of press them open. And then I will take my iron and I will do the same thing. I'm going to set it down on that seam, pressing it. I'm not sliding it and moving it around. I'm just pressing it. I will lift it slightly, move it, press. Lift, move, press. And then I will take this fabric, turn it over to the right side, make sure my seam is laying nice and flat, and I will repeat that. I'm going to press, lift, press, lift, press. Now in real time, I'm going to press it, lift it, press it, lift it, press it. I'm just lifting it enough so that it's not moving the fabric, it's just pressing my seam. And there I have a nicely pressed seam. Now this is really important when you're doing quilting. So I have this smaller piece of fabric that I have stitched together here. You can see the stitching. I've stitched that together. And again, the first thing I want to do is set my stitches. So I'm going to take my iron and press it right down on top of the stitches with the two pieces of fabric still laying right sides together. And that sets my seam, or sets my stitches so that they are smooth and even with the fabric. If I didn't do that and I just went straight over and started to press my seam open or to one side or the other, it's going to have additional bulk to it that will take up some precious seam allowance. So I have set my seam, and now I'm going to open this seam up with my fingers and just kind of finger press it. And then I will take my iron and press it down onto that open seam. Just give it a few seconds. There we go. I also have a tool. It's called a quilter's clapper that I can lay on that seam, and that will help the heat, keep the heat in the fabric so that that seam lays nice and flat. This is a really handy tool, especially with quilting or bag making or projects where you need to make sure you have a nice flat seam. So once I've done that seam, press that seam flat, I'm going to turn my fabric over to the right side, and I'm going to lay my iron down on the seam again. And I'm going to press it nice and flat on the right side as well. And there we go. I've pressed it. I set my stitches. I pressed it on the wrong side. I flipped it over and pressed it on the right side. And now this piece is ready to be used with other pieces. And again, this was my quilter's clapper that I used to help set my seams, or help press my seams. And I will leave a link below in my video to the products that I'm using here. Thank you. Thank you for watching my video. If you found this helpful, be sure to like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And please come visit me over on the Hooked on Sewing blog. Thank you.